Why did this secretly tormented NFL superstar murder 3 people and destroy everything he'd worked for? This is the wild, tragic story of Aaron Hernandez, and I'm going to tell you exactly how it all went down. So Aaron Hernandez is 20 years old, and he's absolutely crushing it in college football at the University of Florida. I mean, this dude is a straight-up beast on the field. He's got the size, the speed, the hands, everything you want in a tight end. College defenders are bouncing off him like he's made of steel, and scouts are drooling over his potential. And then boom. In 2010, his whole world changes because the New England Patriots draft him in the 4th round. Now, getting drafted by the Patriots isn't just getting drafted by any team. This is Bill Belichick's Patriots, Tom Brady's Patriots, the team that's been dominating the NFL for years. For a young player like Aaron, this is like winning the lottery and getting struck by lightning at the same time. Over the next couple of years, Aaron absolutely demolishes the competition as a tight end. He's running routes that leave linebackers in the dust, catching passes in traffic like it's nothing, and basically becoming one of the most dangerous offensive weapons in the entire league. In 2011, he catches 79 passes for 910 yards and 7 touchdowns. Those are just good numbers. Those are elite numbers for a tight end. But then 2012 rolls around, and Aaron has the season of his life. He's catching everything thrown his way. He's in the end zone constantly, and he's helping the Patriots march all the way to the Super Bowl. The whole football world is watching this kid dominate, and everyone's thinking the same thing. This guy's going to be a superstar for the next decade. So naturally, the Patriots decide to lock him up long term. They offer him a 5-year, $40 million contract extension with a $12.5 million signing bonus. To put that in perspective, that's generational wealth. That's your great-grandkids will be rich money. Aaron signs that contract, and suddenly he's not just a football player. He's a millionaire celebrity athlete living the American dream. He's got the mansion, the cars, the jewelry, the whole lifestyle. He's dating his high school sweetheart, Shayana Jenkins, and they're living in this beautiful house in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. From the outside, Aaron Hernandez looks like he has absolutely everything a 23-year-old could want. But here's the thing about Aaron, and this is where the story gets really dark really fast. All that success, all that money, all that fame, it's not enough. Because Aaron's got some serious demons, and they're starting to take control. First off, the dude has absolutely zero impulse control. He's constantly missing team meetings, showing up late to practice, blowing off mandatory workouts. Bill Belichick is known for having zero tolerance for this kind of behavior. But Aaron's so talented that they keep giving him chances. That's how good he is. He's getting away with stuff that would get any other player cut immediately. But the real problem is who Aaron's choosing to surround himself with. Instead of hanging out with his teammates or other professional athletes, he's gravitating toward all these sketchy characters from his hometown. We're talking about guys with criminal records, drug dealers, people who are constantly getting arrested. It's like he's actively trying to sabotage his own success. And then there's the drug problem. Aaron's smoking massive amounts of marijuana. And I mean massive. He's going through probably an ounce a week, which is insane for a professional athlete. But it's not just weed. He's also popping painkillers like candy, mixing different substances, basically treating his body like a chemistry experiment. The Patriots organization starts getting worried. They're hearing rumors about Aaron's lifestyle, they're seeing his behavior change, and they're wondering if they made a huge mistake giving him all that money. But Aaron's still performing on the field, so they figure maybe they can manage the situation. What they don't realize is that Aaron's paranoia is getting worse and worse. He's convinced that people are out to get him, that he's got enemies everywhere, that he needs to protect himself. So he starts carrying a gun. Not just any gun, multiple guns. High-powered firearms that he's keeping in his house, in his car, basically everywhere he goes. This is where things start to get really scary, because Aaron's not just some regular paranoid person. He's a 6 feet 1 inch, 245-pound professional athlete who's been training to be violent his entire life. He's got the physical capability to do serious damage, and now he's armed and increasingly unstable. So it's July 16th, 2012, and Aaron's out in Boston with his buddy Alexander Bradley. Alexander's this guy, from Aaron's old neighborhood. Exactly the kind of person Aaron shouldn't be hanging out with. But Aaron's attracted to that street life, that dangerous energy, and Alexander's his connection to it. They decide to hit up this club called Cure, which is this trendy spot in Boston's theater district. Aaron's feeling good. He's got money in his pocket. He's an NFL star, and he's ready to party. So they're inside the club, drinking, having a good time, and Aaron's probably getting recognized by people, taking pictures, all that celebrity stuff. But then this random thing happens that changes everything. Two guys are walking through the club, Daniel D'Abreu and Safiro Furtado. These are just regular dudes, Cape Verdean immigrants who are out having a good time. They don't know Aaron from anybody. Daniel D'Abreu and Safiro Furtado, two immigrants from Cape Verde, are killed by gunshots fired into their vehicle after a night out in Boston, prosecutors allege. One of these guys accidentally bumps into Aaron, and Aaron spills his drink on himself. That's it. That's the whole incident. A totally normal club accident that happens to people every single night. Most people would either ignore it completely or maybe say, hey, watch it, and move on with their lives. But Aaron completely loses his mind. He sees this accident as a massive sign of disrespect, like these guys deliberately tried to embarrass him. He starts getting loud and aggressive, and Alexander has to physically pull him outside before things escalate. So they go outside, and Alexander's trying to calm Aaron down, telling him to forget about it, that it was just an accident. And for a minute, it seems like Aaron's chilling out. They're walking back to their car, and Aaron seems to be cooling off. But then they get to the parking garage, and Aaron sees D'Abreu and Furtado leaving the club and getting into their car. And something just snaps in Aaron's brain. All that paranoia, all that anger, all that need to prove he's not someone to be messed with, it all comes flooding back. Aaron turns to Alexander and says, fuck those guys. Let's follow them and teach them a lesson. And Alexander, who's apparently just as crazy as Aaron, says, all right, let's do it. So they get in their car, and they follow D'Abreu and Furtado through the streets of Boston. This is like something out of a movie. Two cars driving through the city at night, one following the other, and nobody in the second car has any idea what's about to happen. They drive for a while, and eventually they pull up next to D'Abreu and Furtado's car at a red light. And that's when Aaron, this NFL superstar who's making millions of dollars and has everything to live for, pulls out his gun. The incident that prosecutors say led Aaron Hernandez to shoot and kill two men was little more than a splash of a drink and a laughing smirk. A former friend of Hernandez testified on Monday. Aaron rolls down his window, points the gun at their car, and fires 5 shots. Boom, 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 boom. 5 shots into a car with 2 innocent people who just wanted to have a good night out. Both Daniel D'Abreu and Safiro Furtado die instantly. 2 young men with their whole lives ahead of them, killed because Aaron Hernandez couldn't handle having a drink spilled on him. After the shooting, Aaron and Alexander speed away into the night. They don't call the police. They don't show any remorse. They just drive back to Aaron's house like nothing happened. And because Aaron's a famous NFL player, and because there were no witnesses who could identify him, nobody suspects him of anything. The Boston police investigate the murders, but they're looking for gang members, drug dealers, people with criminal records. They're not looking at the new England Patriots star tight end who just signed a $40 million contract. Why would they? It doesn't make any sense. So Aaron gets away with it. 2 people are dead, and he just goes back to his normal life like nothing happened. He shows up to Patriots practice, he runs his routes, he catches passes, and he acts like he's the same guy he's always been. But inside, something's changed. Aaron's crossed a line that most people never cross. He's killed 2 people, and he's gotten away with it. And that knowledge, that power, that feeling of being untouchable, it's like a drug to him. You would think that after murdering 2 people, Aaron might try to lay low for a while. Maybe he'd realize how close he came to destroying his entire life and career. Maybe he'd get some help for his obvious mental health issues. But no. Instead, Aaron's behavior gets worse. A researcher says Aaron Hernandez suffered severe damage to parts of the brain that play an important role in memory, impulse control, and behavior. The paranoia that was already eating away at him before the murders now completely takes over his thinking. He's convinced that people are watching him, that the police are closing in, that his enemies are everywhere. So we get to February 2013, and Aaron's down in Florida with Alexander Bradley. They're at a strip club in Miami, and they're living it up, spending money, drinking, acting like big shots. In February 2013, Hernandez, Bradley, and several others visited a Florida strip club where they rang up a $10,000 bill. They blow through $10,000 in one night, which is insane money for most people, but pocket change for Aaron. But Aaron's paranoia is off the charts. Hernandez began to worry about two men sitting across from them, thinking they were plainclothes Boston police officers. Bradley later recalled telling Hernandez that they were probably tracking the pair as part of their investigation into the double murder outside the Cure. He's seeing cops everywhere, convinced that everyone's watching him, that the Boston police have followed him all the way to Florida. So they leave the strip club, and Aaron's completely wound up. He's ranting about how they need to be careful, how people are after them, how they can't trust anyone. Alexander's trying to calm him down, but Aaron's too far gone. They're driving back to their hotel, and Alexander realizes he left his phone at the club. It's a simple mistake, the kind of thing that happens to everyone. He asks Aaron to turn around so they can go back and get it. But Aaron refuses. He's convinced that going back to the club is some kind of trap, that the cops are waiting for them, that it's all part of some elaborate setup. Alexander starts arguing with him, telling him he's being paranoid, that he just needs his phone back. And that's when Alexander makes a huge mistake. In the heat of the argument, he brings up the murders. He reminds Aaron about what happened that night in Boston, about how they killed those two guys. Maybe he's trying to point out that Aaron's paranoia is getting out of control, or maybe he's just frustrated and says the wrong thing. But Aaron absolutely loses his mind. The fact that Alexander is talking about the murders, even in private, makes Aaron think that Alexander might tell someone. And in Aaron's twisted, paranoid thinking, that means Alexander has to die. Aaron doesn't do anything right then. He's smart enough to wait, to plan, to make sure he has the upper hand. So he acts like everything's fine, like they're cool, like the argument never happened. They keep driving, and eventually Alexander falls asleep in the passenger seat. He has no idea what's going through Aaron's head. He doesn't know that Aaron's sitting there, planning his murder, waiting for the right moment. Bradley claimed that on February 13, 2013, during the same trip, he woke up in a car with Hernandez pointing a gun at his face. Aaron pulls over to a deserted parking lot, takes out his gun, and points it right at Alexander's face. Alexander wakes up and sees the barrel of the gun inches from his head. Aaron pulls the trigger. The bullet tears through Alexander's face, destroying his right eye and causing massive damage to his skull. Aaron thinks he's killed him, so he drags Alexander out of the car and dumps him in the parking lot like a piece of garbage. But somehow, miraculously, Alexander survives. He's bleeding everywhere. He's in agony. Half his face is destroyed, but he's alive. He manages to get help and make it to a hospital, where doctors work for hours trying to save his life. In February 2013, 4 months before Lloyd's murder, Hernandez allegedly shot another friend, Alexander Bradley, in the face after a night of partying in Florida, according to a lawsuit by Bradley that Hernandez settled in 2016. Now here's the crazy part. Alexander doesn't tell the police who shot him, even though Aaron tried to murder him. Even though he lost his eye and nearly died, Alexander follows the street code of not snitching. He tells the cops it was a drug deal gone wrong, that he doesn't know who shot him. This is the world Aaron's living in, a world where you can shoot someone in the face and they won't even report you to the police. It's a world where violence is normal, where loyalty is more important than justice, where the strong prey on the weak. Aaron gets away with another attempted murder. He flies back to Massachusetts, shows up to Patriots practice, and acts like nothing happened. His friend is in the hospital with half his face blown off, and Aaron's running passing drills like it's just another day at the office. By 2013, Aaron's lost all connection to reality. The combination of CTE, drug abuse, paranoia, and the fact that he's gotten away with multiple violent crimes has turned him into a walking time bomb. He's not thinking rationally anymore. He's just reacting to his fears and paranoia with violence. Enter Odin Lloyd, a 27-year-old semi-professional football player who's dating Shania Jenkins, the sister of Aaron's fiancée Shayana. Odin's a good guy. He works at a landscaping company. He plays football on the weekends. He's got no criminal record. He's exactly the kind of person Aaron should be hanging out with instead of all these criminals. But Aaron's past is catching up with him. Odin knows about Aaron's lifestyle, about the guns, about the sketchy people he hangs out with. And more importantly, Odin knows about the murders in Boston. He's heard the rumors, he's seen the news reports, and he's putting two and two together. So one night, Aaron invites Odin over to his house to hang out. They're in Aaron's apartment with some women, drinking, smoking weed, just having what seems like a normal social evening. But Aaron's brain is working overtime, calculating threats, looking for danger everywhere. At some point during the night, Odin sees Aaron's gun collection. Aaron's got multiple firearms, boxes of ammunition, all kinds of weapons just sitting around his house. And Odin, probably trying to make conversation or maybe just curious, asks Aaron about the guns. Nobody knows exactly what was said in that conversation, but whatever it was, it triggered Aaron's paranoia in a massive way. In Aaron's twisted thinking, the fact that Odin is asking about the guns means he's getting too close to the truth. He knows too much, he's seen too much, and he can't be trusted. Over the next few days, Aaron becomes obsessed with Odin. He's convinced that Odin is going to tell someone about the guns, about the murders, about everything. In Aaron's paranoid mind, Odin has become a threat that needs to be eliminated. So Aaron comes up with a plan. He's going to lure Odin out, take him somewhere isolated, and kill him. It's cold, it's calculated, and it's completely insane. But Aaron's too far gone to see how crazy this is. On June 17th, 2013, Aaron texts Odin and tells him they should hang out. Odin doesn't suspect anything. As far as he knows, Aaron's his friend, the boyfriend of his girlfriend's sister. He has no idea that Aaron's planning to murder him. Aaron picks up two of his buddies, Carlos Ortiz and Ernest Wallace, and they drive over to get Odin. These guys are Aaron's accomplices, his muscle, the kind of people who don't ask questions when Aaron tells them to do something. They pick up Odin from his house, and Aaron drives all four of them about a mile away to this industrial park in North Attleboro. It's a deserted area with construction equipment, piles of gravel, the kind of place where nobody goes at night. Aaron parks the car and suggests they smoke some weed. So they're all sitting there, passing around a blunt, and Odin's probably thinking this is just a normal hangout session. He has no idea what's about to happen. And then Aaron pulls out his gun. He points it at Odin, and Odin must realize in that moment that he's about to die. He probably tries to run, or maybe he begs for his life. But Aaron's already made his decision. Aaron fires multiple shots into Odin's chest. The bullets tear through his body, and he dies almost instantly. Another young man with his whole life ahead of him, killed because Aaron Hernandez couldn't handle his own paranoia. Aaron and his buddies drag Odin's body over to a pile of construction materials and dump it there like garbage. Then they drive back to Aaron's house, and Aaron acts like nothing happened. He's just committed his third murder, and he's completely emotionless about it. But this time, Aaron's luck runs out. Unlike the Boston murders, where there were no witnesses and no physical evidence, the Odin Lloyd murder is sloppy. Aaron's left clues everywhere, and the police are about to put it all together. The next morning, a jogger is running through the industrial park when he spots Odin's body. He calls the police, and they immediately start investigating. This isn't some random gang shooting. This is the murder of a young man with no criminal record, no enemies, no obvious motive for anyone to want him dead. The police start processing the crime scene, and they find evidence everywhere. There's a footprint that matches Aaron's shoe size. There's a piece of the blunt they were smoking, and when they test it for DNA, they find Aaron's saliva all over it. There's surveillance footage of Aaron's car in the area at the time of the murder. The police get a search warrant for Aaron's house, and when they search it, they find even more evidence. They find guns, ammunition, clothing that matches what Aaron was wearing that night. They find text messages between Aaron and Odin from the night of the murder. Most damning of all, they find surveillance footage from Aaron's own home security system that shows him leaving the house with a gun and coming back without it. It's like he documented his own crime. 9 days after Odin's murder, the police arrest Aaron Hernandez. They show up at his house with a SWAT team, and Aaron comes out in handcuffs. The entire sports world is shocked. This is a Patriot star, a guy who just signed a $40 million contract, being arrested for murder. The Patriots immediately cut Aaron from the team. Nike drops his endorsement deal. His whole life, everything he's worked for, everything he's achieved, it all disappears in an instant. He goes from being a millionaire celebrity to being just another accused killer sitting in a jail cell. But the story doesn't end there. While the police are investigating Odin's murder, they start looking into Aaron's other activities. They find the car that was used in the Boston murders at Aaron's cousin's house. They start connecting the dots between Aaron and Alexander Bradley. They realize that Aaron isn't just a one-time killer. He's a serial murderer. Aaron gets charged with first-degree murder for killing Odin Lloyd. The prosecution's case is overwhelming. They have physical evidence, DNA evidence, surveillance footage, witness testimony. Aaron's defense team tries to argue that he was there when Odin was killed, but that he didn't pull the trigger himself. But the jury doesn't buy it. In April 2015, Aaron is convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He's 25 years old, and he's going to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Carlos Ortiz and Ernest Wallace, Aaron's accomplices, are also convicted and sentenced to prison terms. The whole crew that was involved in Odin's murder gets taken down. But that's not the end of Aaron's legal troubles. The Boston police have continued investigating the 2012 double murder, and they've built a case against Aaron for killing Daniel D'Abreu and Safiro Furtado. The evidence in the Boston case is mostly circumstantial. They don't have the physical evidence they had in the Lloyd case. But they have Alexander Bradley, who finally agrees to testify against Aaron. Despite losing his eye and nearly dying, Alexander takes the stand and tells the jury exactly what happened that night in Boston. The prosecution paints Aaron as a cold-blooded killer who murdered 2 innocent men over a spilled drink. They argue that Aaron's paranoia and need for respect drove him to commit senseless violence against people who had never done anything to him. Aaron's defense team argues that Alexander Bradley is a liar who's trying to get revenge against Aaron for shooting him. They point out that Alexander waited years to come forward, that he's a convicted criminal with his own motives for lying. On April 14, 2017, Hernandez was acquitted on 2 separate murder charges for the 2012 double homicide of Daniel D'Abreu and Safiro Furtado. In April 2017, the jury finds Aaron not guilty of the double murder charges. The jury found Hernandez not guilty of first-degree murder in the killings of Daniel D'Abreu and Safiro Furtado. It convicted him of a single charge, unlawful possession of gun. Aaron's acquitted of the murders, but he's convicted of illegal gun possession and gets an additional 4 to 5-year sentence. It doesn't matter, though. He's already serving life without parole for the Lloyd murder. 5 days later, on April 19, 2017, at 3:05 a.m., Hernandez was found dead in his prison cell by correctional officers after apparently hanging himself. Just 5 days after being acquitted of the double murder, Aaron Hernandez hangs himself in his prison cell. He uses a bedsheet to make a noose, and he kills himself in the early morning hours when the guards aren't looking. Aaron's death shocks everyone. He had just been acquitted of 2 murders. His legal team was planning appeals for the Lloyd conviction, and there were rumors that he might have been planning to reveal information about other crimes. Some people wondered if he was murdered, but the investigation concluded that it was definitely suicide. After Aaron's death, his family donates his brain to Boston University for research. What the researchers find is absolutely shocking and explains so much about Aaron's behavior. The 27-year-old former New England Patriots player killed himself in April while serving life in prison for murder. Hernandez's brain had dark spots associated with tau protein and shrunken, withered areas, compared with immaculate white of the sample. His brain had significant damage to the frontal lobe, which impacts a person's ability to make decisions and moderate behavior. Aaron had severe CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the brain disease that's caused by repeated head trauma. But it wasn't just any case of CTE. Aaron had the most severe case of CTE ever found in someone his age. His brain was absolutely destroyed by the disease. The frontal lobe of Aaron's brain, the part that controls impulse control, decision-making, and behavior, was severely damaged. The researchers said his brain looked like it belonged to someone much older who had been suffering from dementia for years. This explains so much about Aaron's behavior: the paranoia, the violence, the complete inability to control his impulses. He wasn't just a bad person who made bad choices. He was a person whose brain was literally deteriorating, whose ability to think rationally was being destroyed by a disease. It doesn't excuse what Aaron did. 3 people are still dead, families are still destroyed, lives are still ruined. But it helps explain how someone who had everything could throw it all away in the most violent way possible. Aaron had been playing football since he was a kid. He'd been getting hit in the head thousands of times over the years, and each hit was doing damage to his brain. By the time he got to the NFL, his brain was already compromised, and the hits he took as a professional player just made it worse.